This is modern homesteading. Today I'm the happiest of men. I've got the whole day set aside to work in our forest. So I'm going to bring you along and show you some of the stuff I'm doing. We're really getting some headway, and I just love being out here. Someone once asked me if you could do anything you wanted to do, if money was no object, what would that be? And I thought about that a lot. And I thought I'd be out here with my tools and my trees, and this is where I'd be. I just love it out here. One thing I want to talk about today, what we're going to be covering also, is just the importance of stewardship. We've addressed this in past videos before, but I really feel strongly about this, and I hate to see a lot of people are not getting it, and especially Christians. A lot of Christians take the mindset that, well, you know, we're just visiting here temporarily, and we don't have a lot of responsibility. You know, who cares if we trash the planet, because it's a temporary home for us. I think that is very contrary and very hurtful to God. If you were a gardener and had produced and built and spent your life building a beautiful garden and had some dinner guests to come over, and they came out into the garden and just abused it and walked off the paths and trampled down all of your work and discarded garbage and debris into your garden and left with the attitude that, well, you know, what difference does it make? We won't be able to see it from where we live. I think God feels that way. As a creative person, if I were to create something and really put my heart and soul into it, an axe handle, for example, and give it to someone and watch them just abuse it, leave it outside, break it, not take care of it, I would not like that. And I would be very unwilling to share future creations, or I don't think I would ever give them anything again. So I think we have a responsibility to leave what we have been given in a better condition than when we found it. And it doesn't have to be a forest. It can be a small garden. It can be a home that God has entrusted you to. It could be a rental. What does it say about a Christian character, or anyone's character for that matter, to leave a home in worse condition that you found it, a rental in worse condition that you found it? How unique would that be, and how much would it set you apart from the masses to rent an apartment to a house and to leave the garden, leave the yard, to leave the home in better condition than you found it? It would be, what does that say about your character? What does that say about you as a person? So, I'm ranting again. Let's get to work, and I'll show you, I've got the whole day out here. I'll just bring you along and share with you what I'm doing and why, and it should be a fun video, and I hope you enjoy it. Here's a little section, a little grove of trees that I've been working on this week. Before 3 or 4 days ago, you couldn't even walk through here. It was absolutely just a disaster. Sickly trees, too many trees, overcrowded, still too overcrowded. But what I typically do is like to clean up the forest floor, clean out all the invasive species, cut down all of the stumps, remove the debris, and then step back and take a look at what I have. Make sure that I still am going to take half of these trees out because they're just too tight. They're competing for sun and nutrients, and they will not thrive. But I want to be able to see them and make wise choices on which ones. Make sure I select a variety of species, select the healthiest trees, and then I'm going to have a forest that's going to be healthy and very resistant to fire and to beetles and bugs and disease. Here, right here, just from that one little section I showed you, I've got, these are huge piles. They're probably 10 feet high or so, 12. I've got 4 of those slash piles there. And what I typically like to do, the loggers that previously worked this particular piece of land have left, of course, the stumps. You know, I don't expect anything other than that. But I'm going to show you a way to take care of stumps that really looks nice and it's easy to do. But also, I start my slash piles on top of stumps. And what that does is that will burn those down and they'll catch on fire. They'll actually burn for a couple weeks, but it's another good way to get rid of them. I'm not going to burn all of them, you know, it just takes too much work, but it will be a way to get rid of a few. The other ones will use a different method. So what I'm going to be working in today, you can start to see here some of this blowdown and mess is what we're doing. So should be by the end of the day we'll have this looking nice, just like the first portion that I showed you. I'll share with you really quickly also my tool cache. I've been doing this long enough now where I've got it whittled down to the things that are really essential in a pretty clean system right here. I keep my whole cache in this aluminum toolbox with a lid on it, because oftentimes I'm out here and it'll rain or drizzle a little bit, and I don't want the tools to get wet and have to take them in and spend an hour oiling and preventing everything from rusting. So I'll keep them in that box in the back of my truck. That way, if it rains, I can put the lid on, and then I don't have to worry about them getting wet. So the cache box is really perfect for this. It's kind of divided into 3 categories. I've got my chainsaw stuff here, files, chainsaw tools, extra chains, gas and oil, and then these are more personal items here, like hearing protection, and then I've got, always redundant here and everything, you know, extra gloves. This is where I keep my goggles and hearing protection, personal things in here. Things that matches, a raincoat, piece of rope, just things that that way I don't have to think, did I forget something when I come all the way down here, because it's a long drive from the house, that I could just grab it, jump in my truck and know that I've got everything I need. Some extra water, some diesel there for helping start to slash fires, my tool belts and wedges, and chainsaw tools, and water and matches and ribbons and all those small little forestry items that come in so handy. I always keep a first aid kit. I've got a really good one I've put together that's really heavy on trauma stuff where you would need to stop bleeding, because what's going to happen here outside, usually you're either going to have a slash wound, maybe a chainsaw wound, or a crush wound, something falling on someone. Axes and cutters and all these sharp edge tools you run a high risk of it, so a lot of blood sponge and that type of materials in there. Chainsaw chaps, of course, and then these are all my hand tools. So everything is kept sheathed, just because there's so many tools and they're banging around, you don't want them to get damaged. One thing that I do when I take my tools out of the shop, like a draw knife for example, that makes a really good sheath, is just old chunks of rubber hose. This is some heater hose right here, and baling wire. It doesn't have to be fancy, but when you go to all the trouble of putting those fine edges on tools, it's a shame to have them cluttering about in a box. Axes, of course, we keep axes always sheathed, and use a lot of loppers. I don't keep those sheathed. They're pretty good. This is interesting. This is a funny story. What kind of a funny story? These loppers here, these are Corona loppers, which are some of my favorites. And when we were using them a couple years ago, one of the handles broke off. So I went into the dealer where they sell them, and these are not cheap loppers. You know, these are really, really good ones. And if you keep them sharp, will last you, I don't know why they wouldn't last you a lifetime. But anyway, the handle broke off. So I went in and asked them about a handle, if they could order me one, and the guy at the hardware store said, oh yeah, we probably could, but it just wouldn't be worth it, just go buy a new pair. I said, well, you know, I don't really want to buy a new pair. And he was really reluctant. He really didn't want to be bothered by it. He just couldn't understand why they were shot as far as he was concerned. They were of no value. A $70 pair of loppers, throw them away because a wooden handle broke. So I went home and cut a handle off an old broken shovel and fixed it myself. And you know, it's not pretty, but it works just fine. But that's the mentality. You know, well, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know that. I've got a couple Pulaskis because we'll be doing trail building, and my good pickaroon, and then my handles for my crosscut blades and debarkers, extra bar, chain, that type of thing. Just all the things that I would need for forestry work and trail building and all that stuff. The bigger tools that won't fit in here are in the back. And what I typically have is a couple of shovels. Usually the family's out here working, so, and then Jack's little trail tool, a high lift jack, a rake. I got my new weed whip over there, a pole saw, chains in case I get stuck. Snow chains are really great in mud. We've got a PV there, and again, to sheath on these good blades like this, a piece of rubber hose with just some strapping on it makes an excellent sheath for that pole saw. And then the last thing that I have, of course, is I got to get these fires going, is my torch and some dry kindling so I can get those brush piles burning. So let's get those sparked up and get them going. Mushrooming a stump, and what we'll do is to start with is take your Pulaski or hoe or whatever you have and dig the dirt out from around it. Make sure you get all the rocks and stuff, because we're going to cut it really close to the ground with the chainsaw.